how would you like to make your first million? Today we have Lance Cayko with us, which is a dynamic architect, entrepreneur, builder, lecturer, and a fellow podcaster with a rich background design in construction and real estate development. As co-founder and partner of F9 Productions Inc., based in London, Colorado, he leads a top-tier design build firm specializing in single-family homes, multifamily residential, and boutique commercial projects. So, Lance, tell us, what are the 5 steps you recommend entrepreneurs in order to make the first million?
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
Step 1, you got to do it. People ask me all the time. Lance, they ask me this question all the time in a different way, Harry. And they say, oh, well, you've listened to your podcast, Lance. You've inspired me to take the leap, start my own business. When's the best time for me to start a business? And I tell them, in a great recession or a great depression, best time to start a business. Why? You'll never be hungrier. You'll never be more challenged. Therefore, you'll never be more creative. And if you can survive starting a business in a great recession or a great depression, and you make it through that, I know we talked about before we started the podcast, like that most of them fail within the first 2 years. Most fail actually in the first 7 years. If you can survive that, and then you come out on the other side when the economy is really good, you'll crush. That's why it's the best time to do it. So number 1, just you got to start. And if you're worried about like the perfect time, there is no perfect time. But if I had to pick a second best perfect time, Great Recession, Great Depression. Second one is you need to be brilliant at the basics. You boil every problem down to fundamental truths and rise up from there. Don't push, your own ego, your style, your design. Your product needs to be about substance more than it is style. It needs to solve a problem. So you got to be just brilliant at the basics. Very simple stuff. Number 3, if you're doing a service-based business like we are, training and learning is a force multiplier. So really getting everybody on the same page so that when you have team members who, if one person gets too busy and then they need another person to step in and help out, they can just pick up the baton and carry it in the race. And so everybody moves as one cohesive team in a team environment. I think I'm on number 3. Communicate. This is a huge one. And my message is broad in this regard because we're in a very digital age. Texts are real easy. Emails are easy. Phone calls get a little harder. Zoom calls like this get even harder. In person is the hardest. But you need to make sure that you are communicating. What our rule is, we've always had it is, our staff and myself, is we have to respond to every client, every inquiry, every consultant, everybody we're working with within 1 hour during that business day. And if you can't get a long, detailed answer to people within the 1 hour, it's okay to at least say, hey, I see you. I'm going to solve that problem in more detail tomorrow. I'll get back to you, but I have received your email, your phone call, anything like that. Communication is just huge in what I do. And I think most successful service-based businesses. 5th one, last one, is serve your client. It might sound silly, but in the age of a rising AI, I think people are really going to gravitate towards the human experience still. I mean, how many times have you been on a phone call where you are trying to troubleshoot something with some giant corporation, and to get to a person at the end of the line is like climbing Mount Everest? So don't forget your purpose in what you're doing is like, at the end of the day, you are serving a client, you are solving problems.
Out of the 500 millionaires that we interviewed in this podcast, 1 out of 5 are property investors, property millionaires. So tell us what is the good, the bad, and the ugly of property, because people might be listening and might think, okay, it doesn't matter what Harry said. I'm listening to the podcast. 1 out of 5 are in the real estate business. They're doing very well. I'm gonna do real estate. It's gonna be easy, and I'm gonna become a millionaire. So tell us what is the good, the bad, and the ugly. Check on reality for our
Well,
audience.
the good is it's the good is it's a real estate is a double-edged sword. So in the United States anyway, the regulations to and do any kind of new building or even a renovation are getting so onerous that it's making it very difficult to do anything. And so if you can get your hands on some real estate that exists or will exist very soon, you're already on the right track because there is a big scarcity of buildings going on, I think, especially in the residential market. So that's sort of a good and bad on it. The ugly part is this is location still matters 100%. I thought, for example, even with us, when we did our first real estate development, I'm sitting in my own condo that we designed to build. My office is right across the way. And we thought we could do placemaking, meaning if the architecture's bold, fresh, the spaces are really good, and they are, it's great, it's award-winning work. But we thought we could then set the prices in the neighborhood. And it didn't pan out that way. The prices got set based on where we were at. So location 100% still matters. I mean, you hear this over and over and over again from realtors, especially if you start getting into the industry, like you said. I'm sure your listeners have heard it. Location, location, location. It still 100% matters. So the ugliness of the location matters in where you're at. And you really don't overbuild, don't overinvest, don't overdevelop in neighborhoods that just can't sustain it in its own context.
And this is a great uh, recommendation for our listeners, right? From here, we encourage all our listeners to do real estate. My first business was in real estate, Lance. I was doing in London, rent to rent, renting the units and renting the houses and the units individually. And by the way, I'm rooting for your steps because that business started in the recession, right? In the 2008, the crisis, 2007, 2008. When the crisis came to London, what happened was that a lot of people lost their job, and because they lost their job, they couldn't afford the whole flat anymore, right? So they left the flats. So now we have a lot of flats empty in London, and the landlords are taking a hit because they don't have the money to pay the mortgage. But at the same time, these people that left the flats, what they were looking is for room for the same reason. It's cheaper. So so in one side I have all the flats empty, loads of them. On the other side, I have a lot of people. They were not looking for a flat, but they were looking for a room. I'm telling you, 20 years ago, it was not even Airbnb back then. We have back then Blackberries, you know what I mean? So it was in the crisis, Lance, like to give you an idea, each property was giving £2,000 a month profit, cash flow. That's how lucrative it was inside that crisis because the landlords give us a very good price in the units, and because everybody was looking for room, everybody want to pay a little bit more to have a good room. Anyway, so I agree 100% in your in your step about the crisis. You know, when things go tough, and we have a recent incident in COVID that some people came out very good and some people got totally destroyed. So
Mm-hmm.
Balance, I want to expand a little bit more in this thought about pricing and development, because we see here, you know, in Florida, we see in Miami, right? We have these different type of developments. You have those developments that, I don't know, you call it the Bentley Tower or you call it the Mercedes, right? So you assign a brand into it, right? And somehow maybe this price, I'm asking you because you're an expert on it, based on how do you think, Islam, that actually attaching a brand to a building will increase the price, or still you are believing that that location is going to be the key factor? And after, yes, if you attach a brand to it, if you do a very cool architect design, you might increase a little bit more, but the main principle is the location? Or do you think that doing another things you can increase the price?
I think the majority of it is location for sure. Still,
I think I agree with
there's a
you. I agree
yeah,
with
there's a desirability. Like I said, we tried it. I mean, not to get
you.
political, but
You done it yourself, right?
yeah,
This
but not to
is-
yeah,
no.
not to get political, but like there's a guy we can point to branding all over the United States who's done it. That's why we made most of his money right away, was actually right after The Apprentice, right? Is
Mhm.
the trademarking. This guy doesn't own all these buildings, Mr. Trump. That's who we're talking about. But he's got his name all over the place, and so he licenses. He's like the anomaly though. There's really not there's not that's not usual for what happens in placemaking in that way, just putting your
Last, but
name
if
under
you
the
check,
signature.
balance, if you check, all those properties are in premium locations.
They were exactly, yeah. I mean, think about
Exactly.
right.
Their strategy allocated. That's what I'm saying. That I think you're right in the fundamental. And I think that brand,
Yeah.
the Trump brand, understood exactly what you were saying, right? So they
Yes.
will attach a name to a property that we have a good location. And
A
then,
great location first. Yeah. So first and
yeah,
foremost, like if we're just cascading the
exactly.
importance, yeah, a location, that's what I'm saying, 80, 90%. And that
Mhm.
I'm not trying to take away from Mr. Trump and his brilliance in terms of a business person. The guy's a
Absolutely.
billionaire, you know?
On the
And then
other
he adds,
hand,
yeah.
Lance, because realize what you realize, right? Because imagine that you put a name to something that's in the middle of nowhere. It doesn't matter which name you're gonna.
Hmm.
It's not based on what you describe. That is not gonna work. I remember Lance that in my business in property the same thing, right? Like in London, for example, because we have so many properties to choose, right? I remember that there were properties that they were close to a supermarket location. Let's go back to location, close to a supermarket, close to the metro in London. And those properties, even if they were a little bit smaller or whatever, they were renting fast and they don't have any vacancy. And then we have a big house, very comfortable, just 5 minutes, 10 minutes from the station, and nobody wanted. And I'm thinking, why? You have more space, you're more comfortable. But the location, it was a determined factor. So there is no way that, but some value can be added, Lance, right? Okay, let's go to a different question. Uh, why you decided to be in the property game, in the real estate game? I think that you choose an amazing vehicle. My one was by accident. I was in
Hmm.
London. I'm working in the pub. I'm making 5.25 per hour. Every time that I got the paycheck, my rent is 65% of my check. And I'm thinking, if I don't solve this renting issue, I'm gonna spend more than what I make, right? So out of necessity, I started the business, and I was kind of lucky that the credit crunch happened. Okay, so but you tell us your story. Why you choose real estate as a vehicle to build wealth?
Because you make money four different ways. That's it's very simple, right? There's four core methods. There's rental income, there's appreciation, equity buildup, and then there's tax benefits that you get from it, right? So my wife was a big inspiration for that. Her mother, they grew up in Detroit, and her mother at one point, rest her soul, I think she had over 30 investment properties as
Oh
a single
wow!
woman. It was
Oh
incredible,
wow!
yeah. And the system she had set up was she would basically there was like a welfare system where you could put she would she would try to house African American women that basically the state would pay for their rent, but it would go like she would be the checkpoint for the rent, and it was a guaranteed form of income. And her mother retired very early, and had a great last 20, 30 years. And then so I would talk with my mother-in-law a lot and just pick her brain about it. I was fascinated by the whole thing. She would tell these crazy stories. It was like really fun. And then my wife, I think
Oh
she has like,
wow! Really? Oh, very good.
yep.
That's because you're a designer, right? By what
Yeah,
do you have a degree? Do you went to university? What is your background?
well, exactly. I wanted to be a builder first, and then an architect, and then eventually a real estate developer and an investor. That was my sequence. I was actually not all about it. So it was a lot of life, a lot of people influencing me in that sort of way. One of my
So why you
heroes is
wanna be this? Why you wanna be this? Did you pick a book? You saw a TV show? Your relative inspire you? So when this dream, I wanna do this, came from?
to do the serial entrepreneur thing, which culminates in owning property, is it came from when I was completing my master's of architecture degree, and the word developer kept popping up over and over again because that's
Mm,
who usually hires architects.
mm.
And for me, it's always been a like I grew up in a lower middle class family. Money was an issue. I didn't like the anxiety of not having money. My favorite rapper, Kanye West, completed a phrase for me that I heard my whole life. My mom and dad used to say all the time, having money isn't everything. Kanye West said, not having it is. And I went, oh man, it's true. Like if you don't have money, then kind of getting money and is everything to you. So for us with the real estate development and investment, it's about wearing all three hats and getting a much bigger reward for the risk because we're the architects, we're the builders, we're the real estate developers, and then ultimately the investors and the owners, and we have to take care of the properties, right? So like Alex and I even manage the HOA at our real estate development that I'm sitting in right now to make sure that it retains long-term asset value. So that's the reason why. It's just like it's a means towards freedom, 100%, right? Like I'm going to take this afternoon off and go fishing for the rest of the day because I've worked my butt off for 43 years getting to this point of having passive income and passive asset valuation through real estate investment.
Land, so it's a great benefit that you know how to design and build, right? Now it comes with the big risks. I think that all the out of the strategies out there for property, the more risky but the most lucrative. One of the most risky and lucrative are the new developments, right? Um, because you have to wait a lot for the permit, then you have to sell the units. Then again, you might find the challenge with the pricing and the projections that everybody thought that's going to happen. And then you have to, how you call it, pivot or make different of the on deal with this on the projection. So, any advice do you have for property developers in United States? Any message you want to send?
Lean
Apart
into
that, make sure that the location is good, but don't pick a location. Don't pick a location and thinking that because you have a great building, you're gonna move the price of the area. That's not gonna work, right?
Yeah, two things I think. Right now, there is, I think you need to pay attention to the edges because the edges are where opportunity exists. Somewhere in between a place that's hot and a place that's not. Because you're hoping the hot expands to the not part, right? So like imagine a downtown that's being revitalized. We're doing a renovation on a building right now. It's a commercial property. We're turning it into from a pawn shop, nobody liked it, to two restaurants, a coffee shop, and a vinyl record store. And it's right on the edge. It's like a perfect. It was a good price, and it's ripe for development, and it will cap off Main Street. So location matters in that way. And then the second one is I think right now you need to be leaning into renovation, whether it's residential or commercial, because that's literally what we're doing. And then we're targeting another building that we're going to redevelop in a town 20 miles south. Same thing. We found the edge. It's right on the north side of the downtown Main Street, and it's a great price. Kind of similar building. We're going to try to do the same thing. We think we can replicate it. Those two big factors, I think, is what people who want to get into property should be looking at. It's not. I don't think it's new stuff for a while. I think it's renovating and looking for that edge.
Yeah, I agree with you, Lance. Like, make sure something that is already built, right? Because doing it from scratch, it's a long process that requires a lot of finance. So, Lance, in London, we do something that which that is possible. Sometimes we do commercial, we turn commercial into residential, and it's extremely lucrative over there in the United Kingdom. And after COVID, the commercial spaces it hasn't picked up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Less people go to the office, a lot of empty commercial facilities out there. It is possible in United States to turn commercial into a residential, or whatever is commercial has to stay commercial, and whatever is residential needs to stay residential. How it works.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it depends on where you're at again, right? Like we keep coming back to this theme if everybody hasn't noticed location. I just read an article about the city that we have two offices, and our main office is in this small town, about 100,000 people. It's next to Boulder. And it's significant because that's significant to know because the article I read this morning, Boulder has taxed and regulated themselves to the point where it is a non-business friendly environment. And guess where a lot of those businesses are going? They're going 15 miles east into the town that we operate in because we are not overly taxed, overly regulated, and we're business friendly. So the commercial spaces are thriving over here. They can actually get more rent over there. They can get about 35 bucks triple net, and we can only command maybe 25 bucks triple net office space, but our vacancy rate is much less. Like our occupancy rate, put it this way, our occupancy rate is about 75%, which is very good for commercial, and their occupancy rate is less than a quarter. It's less than 25%. So the proof is in the pudding there in that kind of a way. That's the commercial side of things. So again, that's all about, and you see this actually in state to state, right? Like the exodus that happened from California in the last maybe decade. Where's everybody going? Austin, Texas, Dallas, Texas, Houston, Texas, right? Low regulations. Florida. A lot of Florida people are going down there. That's my kind of commentary on the situation. Again, it's about the yin and yang and location.
How do you think that AI with transform the industry? There is something, Lance, that always key in them with new developments and development, which is the speed. Okay. Um, and you see there people talking about 3D printing houses. Just an architect, right? So the printing houses, the prefab buildings, so you can finish faster. Um, how do you think that the technology is out there that actually can produce something like build to code that can be faster
Mhm.
than um, that what is out there? I mean, in China, I think that they do the things faster, but they don't have the regulation that we have in United States, right? So uh, here you need to go fast, but you have to comply with the regulations. So how do you think
Hmm.
the technology advancing in that space? Do you think that we're close, or still there is way to go?
Oh God, AI is very dumb. Honestly, like I don't think it's as smart as we want to put off. Look, ChatGPT runs off of Reddit, the website Reddit. It aggregates 50 to 60% of what it spits out is just an aggregation of what other people have said on Reddit. Then I'm not trying to pick a favorite here, but then I use ChatGPT. I use both this morning, almost every morning. I switched to Grok, and then there's Claude, right? I think you honestly probably need a mix of like three, like I do, to see what the answer ChatGPT will give you, the answer Grok will give you, the answer Claude will give you, and all of that kind of stuff. So that's like my overall 40,000 foot view of the whole thing. If I drill down to where I think it's probably heading, I'll give you a couple examples. The one I'll start off with a positive one, and this is like a rosy outlook. I would love it if it started replacing building plans reviewers. So it would just streamline it. They're not going to give me any attitude. They're not sick. They're going to just do it by the book. There's not going to be and they can't help themselves. And I can't help it either. Is like, they might have a preference. They might have a vendetta. They might be like, they don't like to work with this architecture firm, this builder, this developer. And then your drawings go to the bottom of the pile. Maybe the drawings are bad too. Who knows? But it would be more objective and faster that way. Okay, that's the positive spin on it. The negative spin is I think a lot of us in this industry have heard over and over again from prospective clients, whether they're like a commercial client or a residential client slash owner, whatever. And they go, "Well, I know enough to be dangerous." I hate that phrase because I'm like, oh gosh, what it's going to do is AI will give them an even more dangerous level of knowing enough to be dangerous. Because it, like I said, it circles all the way back to it's aggregating from Reddit, the website Reddit. And if those answers on Reddit are already bad answers, it's going to give potential clients or people you're working with even worse answers in the industry. So that's my kind of ball of AI take.
Now, do you think that would be helpful in order to speed up the permits for new development? Because something that take way long, and without those permits, you guys can operate, right? Um,
Yeah. Yeah, that's my
that
hope
would be
with that's my hope with the rosy outlook is that it does speed up the permits. It takes that the folks who are working in government to approve the plans on the planning and the building side. They don't it's not necessarily like I'm not here to replace them all and nope, it's just we're just talking with a robot. But it would be nice if they could move faster. If they could examine things quicker and be more objective about it and less subjective in their determinations. That's an ideal world. And one thing that's on the cusp of that some of the code agencies are starting to roll out for us as architects and developers and builders is that they're offering some pieces of software where we can feed the drawings in and do like a pre-permit test, and it'll show where any deficiencies are or things we need to fix so that hey, we're doing our part on the private sector side, Mr. person that's a planner, stuffy planner in a building department. It's like, can you do your part too and maybe speed things up on your side? That would be a perfect hybrid.
the innovation. I get it. That's amazing. But when you do new developments, multifamily, so single family, um, you make more money. Is my understanding. If maybe it takes a little bit more time, but if you pick the right location and like look at you, you have the knowledge, right? So you don't even need to pay an architect to do that. You
Yeah.
actually can supervise. So is it really lucrative when doing these new developments, or when you put into consideration the time, the effort, the way to took the permits, and everything that gets stuck in between, plus paying for selling, paying this? Uh, it's like a normal profit, but nothing out of the sky, or is worth the waiting.
It's worth it. Well, it's a long game. I think the
Very
quick
long.
profits, yeah, I think the quick profits are behind us in the state that I operate in. So when I first moved here, you had a perfect storm. If you could find capital and money to snatch up properties during the Great Recession at the height of it, yes, you're going to win big, like double your money. And which is very hard to do, right? Because you look at like the S&P, or if you invest in any of these long-term ETFs or indexes, you're going to maybe get 9 to 10% return. That's a great return. You'll never beat that in a savings account. You'll never beat that in a CD, any of that kind of stuff. And then, but then there is the real estate side of it. And I watched many young developers cut their teeth in developer in Denver, that they ended up then eventually graduating to do big new ground up developments. But they started with flipping houses. They started with flipping commercial spaces, and they did exactly what I said. Is they were somehow in the right position and timed the market, which is really hard to do too. It's really hard to time that market because when you're in the trenches of that Great Recession or that Great Depression, and even if you can find the capital, you're still going. It still feels like forever until it's not. And really, they're always very short. It's usually only like 1 to 3 years with these big dips. But that's the way you do it. So I know a lot of guys and gals bought up all kinds of properties at that very, very low stage, just kind of did some basic renovations to them, cleaned them up, painted new cabinets, stuff like that. And then when we came out of the market, they held onto them for rentals as we were coming out. And then after a couple of years of renting them out, and they were like, "Holy cow! Look, the real estate market is crazy hot," and it was. And a lot of them doubled their money on those kind of investments. So I think that's for me. I think that's that ship has sailed unless we see another huge, huge downturn. But even with this little downturn you've seen, real estate prices have only, struggled to hold their value by like 1 to 5 points. I mean, they really have, even after COVID and we printed all that money, like this condo that I'm sitting in, for example, they were originally valued at 350,000, and then right after COVID, and then when all the money was printed, and then that's just how it works with inflation, right? Now they're worth 500,000. So that was my personal example and professional example of like how we've created some wealth, but it still pales in comparison to those guys that I know that picked up houses in Denver for 100,000, 200,000, and then flipped them for like 4 or 500,000, 4 or 5 years. That's a lot of cash to be flipping around.
So, what are the biggest challenge that you have faced as property developer, and how you become the challenge?
Oh, it's always the government for sure. It's always the government. I mean, every time it's to do any development down here, you're looking at once you buy land, you're looking at like a 3 year process before maybe you start building. And then the building might take, 1 to 2 years after that.
Oh wow,
So
that's a lot of 3 years. Why?
yeah. Well, here's how it works is so like if you pick so we like for example with us, we bought a third of an acre in 2017. It took us a whole year to get through. How about this? I'll back up. First, it's going to take you maybe 6 to 9 months to do all the design work. So you've already burned a year. Then we jump to the next year, 2018, for example. It's going to take you a whole year to get through the planning process with the city. Now let's jump to year 3. Once you're finally through the planning process, then you get to submit your construction drawings to the building department, totally separate department. Then you're maybe looking at another year and some change because of the financing, right? So like because a bank or even a private lender is not going to they're not even going to really entertain the idea until they say like, okay, are you through entitlements? Are you through the planning process? Then you can start looking for banks, and that takes a while to really get that going. So that's how it can take up to maybe 3 years before you're breaking ground, and then I said another year or two before you do it. So back to it's kind of back to the last question you asked before this of like, is there quick cash? Is there like a big profit margin? It's like, yes, if you're thinking about it for 10 years. That's really how you have to think about each deal, I think. And maybe if you're starting one deal every year, by the time you get to that first 10-year mark, and then for the next 10 after that, so from your 10 to 20 years, that's really where you can start going, holy cow, look at all this equity I have built up. I can start refinancing. I can pull my cash out. I can start maybe paying down my primary house, my secondary house, and then really building towards financial freedom.
So, Lance, if someone is in love with this conversation, how people can find you, how this process works, how they can listen to your podcast?
Yeah, check me out on LinkedIn. I'm the only one that with the first name Lance, Lance, last name Cayko. Link in with me. I will link in with anybody who sends a request there. You can follow me on InsideTheFirmPodcast.com. That's where we do our show. We are a podcast that's done over 800 episodes, million downloads. We're veterans in the space. We do everything architecture, engineering, real estate development, business, entrepreneurship. You want to be inspired, check it out. And then the last one would be f9productions.com, our architecture, real estate, and building company.
Lance, and why you choose to be an entrepreneur in the first place? You as an architect, you out there they pay you very good money in corporate, and then we make you very comfortable.
Yeah, right. It'd
Why
be
you
just a little.
decide? Why you decided to be uncomfortable and to go into the roller coaster?
Yeah, yeah.
That anybody around you told you that maybe that was not a good idea, that you might be crazy. I'm telling you because I got a degree in chemical engineering.
Oh,
Uh, and I was working as a software developer in Spain. And when I left everything and I went to London, and my English was not good, when I started to work in a pub, my family went crazy. They were, why are you doing wiping tables? You have a degree in engineering. You should find a job, a good job. That's why you went to university. And why are you doing? So when you took that decision, okay, let's put it another way. How many people from your class own their own business like you?
Oh, dozens. Yeah, that's one of the best part
Ah,
about our
wow.
podcast. Yeah, is that
Oh, no, no, no,
we've
no,
been.
no, no, no. Not from the podcast, from your class, from university.
Oh, I'm sorry. Gosh, that's a good question. If I had to if just a quick number for my class who actually own the business and are entrepreneurs, four, including me and Al. I think five including me and Al. So there's only three additional besides us. Yeah, it's a rare thing.
So, why do you took the decision? And what was the feedback of the people around you back then? There were people were rooting for you. Like me, when you said build your business in the crisis, I'm like, yeah. Other people were telling, well,
Yeah.
this is not gonna
Yeah.
work. This is no good idea. Why you don't find a job? Why you spend all this money in this university? How you gonna make your money beyond the thing? And now you have to wait until you get paid. So people start to give you so how you deal with that environment? It was supported, it was not, and how you navigate this? Because I've been there, yeah.
Oh, all of
But
our friends.
still my dad. His dream is that I find a good job.
I love that.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. If I go tomorrow and say to my dad that I find a job in corporate America and I'm gonna make so much, and they're gonna make me maybe so much, they will, you know, they will love it. So,
Yeah,
tell me,
my mom and dad are just they're I'm not trying to disparage them, but there's a term for it. It's like they're wages, right? So they're just working for the man, they're working for other people. Especially my mom. They're people we need people like that. That's all good. So my parents never the only really negative thing that was ever said to me was when we got into real estate development specifically because my I actually had to call my we had one of the units flooded. It was kind of a disaster at the end. But then there was a big insurance help and all that, and we got it put back together and all. But I called my dad down to help me finish. I was like, hey, I just got cut to my knees that day when it was one of the units flooded. So I was kind of desperate and I called him because he's a carpenter too. And I was like, hey, I just need you for a couple days to come help me, please, please. And he came down and he saw how stressed out I was and how big of a project it was. And he goes, "Wouldn't you have made just as much money if you just did architecture?" And I go, "Yeah, it's not about that." So that's kind of my answer here, Harry, is entrepreneurship isn't really for me anyway, and I know a lot of other entrepreneurs too, like it's not about money primarily. That's a factor, but really it's
who
freedom.
you are.
And yeah, and
It's
it's
who
who
you
you
are.
are.
It's your identity. And the issue, Lance, is that we're rare species. If you see the statistics, like uh, even within the entrepreneurs, right?
Mhm.
86% they never made more than 100,000 a year. So they can even better off the job, and still they're fighting out there because this is who they are. And when I started the same thing, my family nobody was an entrepreneur, right? Only my grandparents. So when I was very little, and he had just a small store, right? But now even my brother on a business now. After I start to do it, now my brother have it, and now in the family, like still we are minority, but there is some support in Christmas or whatever. Well, they do this, they do this, something different. So the conversation is not that's hard like have been for me, right?
Mhm.
Um, not only from family, but also for a group of friends, peers, the neighborhood, whatever. And we were talking about Trump as an example. And you see all those kids, they have different conversations since they are kids. They are listening about business, this property, the employees, this, let's
Yep.
do this, let's do that. And then, I'm usually speak at family offices, and you will see how they even take the kids to the boardroom meetings. So they start to get familiar with the property development, with investment, with this and that. So eventually, when they to get used to it, right? So I think we need more entrepreneurs because without us, there is no jobs and nothing moves. But still, we are a rare species. that we had to create community and to talk more about the subject. So once again, thank you so much, Lance, for being in the podcast, and thank you so much for you also being a voice out there for entrepreneurs. I really appreciate that. For all of you following the podcast, see you now on next episode of Unstoppable, how brave entrepreneurs like Lance break that wall and achieve the first million. Bye for now.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.